about how this government has done, especially over the last 18 to 20 months. And I am indeed very proud to be a part of such an august body that have truly navigated, skillfully navigated the very trying times that we have been experiencing over these months. It has been no mean feat. It has taken skill. It has taken grit. It has taken sheer determination for us. And thank God we are here, because we would have done what it took to bring us to this point. I want to start my conversation today a little different, because this morning my colleague opposite, my learned friend on the opposition side, had some questions, and I seek to answer her questions. And when I said colleague on the other side, Mr. President, I'm talking about colleague as a woman. We are on different sides, but as a woman. I want to make that absolutely clear. There is a lot of song and dance, Mr. President, about the project up at Alexandra. And so I wanted to tackle that first this afternoon. Mr. President, this project started in 2017. And the estimated cost, $19 million. $19 million. Of that $19 million, Mr. President, we were granted $7 million from the SIDF fund and a loan from Social Security of $5 million. The question was asked, Mr. President, why is this project lingering? Mr. President, I have said in this honorable house time and time again that this project is not a house. It is not a warehouse where you throw up the walls and you put the roof on top of it. This is a technical building. This is a hospital. And because we want to be able to have utility out of this building for the next 50, 60, 70 years, we must do what is necessary to get it right. Yes, the project has been a little delayed. We have to consider the pandemic as part of the problem why this project has been delayed. The pandemic matters. Because we had to reallocate from funds. And that is why I say we would have done some skillful gymnastics where funds are concerned to make things work. I say, Mr. President, yes, and I agree that the project has been a little delayed, but there are reasons why it has been delayed. And I cite as one of the reasons as the setback from the COVID pandemic. Secondly, Mr. President, we have been in direct consultation with persons, international persons, who have built buildings, built hospitals. They have been guiding us. And when we got the consultants from PAHO, they said to us that we had so much space, we can almost fit the original building into that building. And so we had to do a restructuring of the internal layout of the building. That takes time, Mr. President. We have to get it right. The AC unit, they have to be placed right. So we don't have AC going the wrong way and we have cross-contamination, Mr. President. These were things that had to be worked out. The electrical wiring, the piping of gases, these need to be worked out. These are intricacies that must be worked out, Mr. President. And we are thankful that we would have received such guided information and such guided technical advice for us to get it right. Let me say here, Mr. President, that the initial building should have housed pediatric ward, radiology, lab, physiotherapy, operating theater, dialysis room, and medical records. That was the initial drawing. 2 operating theater suites. Suites, you hear that? Not just a standalone room. First class, state-of-the-art operating suite. With the revised plan now, Mr. President, you add to what I have just said earlier. You now add a pharmacy. You add the maternity ward. You add surgical ward. You add a conference room. You add rest area for doctors and nurses. You understand what I'm talking about, Mr. President? These are the things that are now added because we had the allocated space. And with the proper guidance from our counterparts at PAHO, they have now said to us, there is a better way to utilize this space. And so they have come back with a revised plan. Mr. President, my figures from the persons at finance as well as the project manager is showing us that the amount paid out to contractors and subcontractors so far amounted to $6.853 million. There is an additional amount of another $6.218 million remaining for the contractors and subcontractors. And this amount includes variation. Because remember I said earlier, I gave you what the initial plan was, and now we have come back with an addition to 6 additions to the new building. And so, indeed, there will be variations. What I can say to you, Mr. President, and based on the figures that I've been given, we have now used $14.218 million out of the $19 million allocated for this project. It means then, Mr. President, that we are still under budget. So I am giving the information now so that when they speak, they can speak from a more informed position. I understand without the necessary information, ignorance could creep in. But now I am placing the information before them so that in going forward, they can be able to speak from a very informed position. So I think that I would have shed some light on this project. And Mr. President, if you go, I'm certain that you probably drive past that, but I want you to stop. Or if you want us to arrange for a tour, you can be given a tour as well. The building that is back there, and the Premier mentioned it yesterday, is not an arm or not a wing. It's a whole building next to another building. When this is completed, Mr. President, it is something that all of us will be very proud of. We will now have a state-of-the-art hospital in Little Nevis. So I'm saying to those persons who have been very negative with the delays, all of us would look good at the end of the day. And in addition to that, we will be able to give top-notch service. Because when you put on a new suit, you step lighter. When you put on a new clothes, you step lighter. And so our technicians, our matron, our nurses, they will have the impetus to work and to put out all that they have when that new building is completed. So for us, on the user at the end, we will be given top-notch service. So let us be a little patient. And let us see, at the end of the day, what will be the finished product of this very important edifice. So I'm hoping that I would have shed some light on that, Mr. President. And so I now move on to the real business at hand. Mr. President, I also want to start my presentation today on a relatively somber note, because the situation warrants that. Yes. Now I'm going on to the meat of the matter, and I want to start on a very somber note. And I want to take this time out, Mr. President, to congratulate the populace of Nevis, the whole population. Different tiers, different levels, all. I want to congratulate everyone on what they would have done in their little capacity to keep Nevis afloat. We would have had to work together because it's not an easy job. I want to congratulate all and sundry, Mr. President. The past 18 months has not been easy. And so I want us to come together and be happy of what we would have done. I want to start by thanking our parents. Our parents. From where I sit, I know it was not easy for our parents. Putting food on our table, on their table, keeping their children in school, some of whom would have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. But they fought long and hard. They dug deep in order to keep their children on the right path. And so I want to be able to, from this house, to congratulate our parents. Most of them, Mr. President, are single parents, single mothers. And they would have had to dig deep in order to survive these past 18 to 20 months. Mr. President, I also want to, at this time, salute our teachers, and the Minister responsible for education did an excellent job at applauding them this morning. And I too want to join with him to shower them with the accolades, because they would have had to do quite a bit in order to keep our children on the cutting edge. During this time, Mr. President, they were not only teachers. They were doctors, they were guidance counselors, they were pastors. They had to do everything for our children to maneuver. They have now become the new experts at technology. When they put together the virtual classes, and the minister spoke long and hard about it this morning, how we are trendsetters. We would have set the trend in terms of getting the technology up and running, and we are on that right path, and bigger countries are still training. So in other words, Mr. President, Nevis could now be used as best practice, because we are ahead of the curve. Absolutely. And what I could say, Mr. President, we have to say kudos to our teachers. They learned the technology fast. And that is why our students were able to stay on the cutting edge. And it is obvious, the results. We can see from the results that we have continued on the same vein. Our students are still performing very well. 10 and 12 subjects with 6 and 7 distinctions. That is indeed commendable, and that was still accomplished during this difficult period. So educators, give yourself a pat on the back. You have now new pioneers in what we have now called the new normal. And Mr. President, let me take a breather. I now turn my attention to all the arms of health, all, bar none. And I want to start with our dedicated and committed nurses. Mr. President, I think it was Maya Angelou who said that a nurse, you have the opportunity, as a nurse, you have the opportunity to heal mind, body, soul. You might not remember your patients' names, but they will definitely remember how you treated them. And I must say that our nurses at Alexandra epitomizes just that, caring, dedicated. I cannot thank our nurses and doctors enough. They have taken on that Herculean task of keeping our country safe. They redoubled their efforts. And I know that the general public was not too pleased when they had to implement restricted hours of visits, but it was all for our safety. Mr. President, as I speak, our nurses are presently doing 12-hour shifts. You tell me which other workforce in Nevis at this present time is working 12-hour shifts? Absolutely none. It shows and it speaks volumes of the commitment and the dedication of our nurses. But, Mr. President, I am afraid of burnout right now because this is December. My matron has not taken a vacation yet. And so we definitely will have to do something different. There are still challenges. There are challenges. But I just wanted to make the point that our nurses at Alexandra are working 12-hour shifts in their quest to keep our nation safe. We must publicly thank them. We must publicly thank them. I want to say thank you as well to our ancillary workers. Without them, we cannot accomplish much. They sanitize, they clean, they are there. And we must applaud them as well. Because we know that the non-pharmaceutical remedy for COVID is cleanliness, is to clean, to wash hands, sanitize, and to wash down the place, and to keep it clean. And our ancillary workers have been doing that. And I must thank them publicly for doing that as well. When I started, Mr. President, I said that the efforts of keeping Nevis afloat was not just done by government. It's a true reflection of a private-public sector partner. And I must applaud the private sector as well for doing everything in their power to keep their workers on. Some of them would have given them shorter working hours. They would have done what they needed to do. And I am applauding them because if more persons were out of work, it meant it would have been more difficult for the government because they would have come looking to the government for employment, and we are not in a position to employ them. So I have to thank the private sector for sticking with us and ensuring that the workers continue to work even though some of them got reduced hours. I thank them for that. In addition to that, Mr. President, they were very vigilant in ensuring that their workers were vaccinated. I must thank them as well for assisting us in that national drive. It is not the vaccination program, it's not a drive for the government alone or the Ministry of Health. It is, as I said, a national program, and the private sector came on board in driving that program, that process for us. And I am truly grateful. So, Mr. President, no. What do we expect from our 2022 budget? I want to wholesomely congratulate the mover of this bill, the Premier of Nevis and the Minister of Finance. I want to first of all congratulate him for his astute leadership, especially in this last 2 years. He has had, and as I said before, skillfully navigated the financial waters during this pandemic. And I can say that because I know how many times I had to go back looking for reallocation of more funds to take care of what we need to take care of in the Ministry of Health. So I know what he had to go through. If me at the Ministry of Health had so many headaches for just one ministry, I could imagine the headaches that he had for the entire government-wide, because everybody was going back. I was coming back. Agriculture was coming back. Roads was coming back. Education, we were all coming back for the limited resources that we had in our coffers. But he was able to prioritize. And at the end of the day, all of us got a little bit. Some got a little more. But it was because of his astuteness and his demeanor in getting it done and doing it right, were we able to stay afloat, right? And so during 2021, we would have seen an unprecedented level of spending. Budgeted, we wiped off the budgeted funds in no time, and then we had to ask for more monies that were not budgeted. And so, Mr. President, I want to say kudos to the Premier for a job well done. This budget, Mr. President, is a practical budget. No frills. We don't have money for the frills. We are still navigating our way around COVID-19. So we can't have a budget that with our wish list, we have to be practical in what is in this budget. And this budget is practical. It is realistic. What is put in there, Mr. President, could be achieved in the next fiscal year. We cut down to size. Size to fit. It tight. It tight. But we had to make it practical. We had to make it realistic. And with that being said, Mr. President, it's workable. It could work. It has to work. It must work. I am hoping, Mr. President, that we don't have another spike and then we will have to find monies from wherever to put in health to deal with that spike. And so as we continue to navigate the waters, Mr. President, and to navigate COVID-19, we continue to make strides. We continue to make strides. As difficult as it has been, Mr. President, we have been able to accomplish a couple of things. We have been. We have had some upgrades done on our health centers. Those are our outposts. Mr. President, the emphasis is on the health centers. What we are trying to do, Mr. President, is to ensure that our health centers are well positioned so that communities can go to the health center and get treatment of all sorts. This, Mr. President, will take the pressure off of Alexandra, and that is what we are trying to do. And so during the year under review, we were able to do some upgrades in the health centers. Combermere Health Center, for example, received a much-needed facelift. It was retiled, fresh coat of paint, and we also installed 2 AC units. At this point, I want to say thanks to the management owner of the Finished Touch. Those 2 AC units were donated by the Finished Touch. The Finished Touch, I must add that he's always working with us at Health. Whenever we call on him, he's always willing and ready to assist. Mr. President, as we speak, and I want to address this now, as the question was asked this morning as to whether or not PCR testing is being done at Alexandra. Mr. President, we are in receipt of 1 PCR machine, and I want to place on record our profound thanks and gratitude to the Drahi Foundation for 1 Quant Studio 5 PCR machine. The machine has been installed as at the end of November, and as we speak today, our technicians at the lab are undergoing virtual training from the consultants at PAHO. This training is necessary so that we can receive certification, so that when we do our testing, we are sure that our tests are accurate, that we are maintaining the international standards. What we have to understand as a people, Mr. President, is that these things take time. It is a process. We get the machine, it is being set up, then we have to commission, training, and then certification. So you see the build-up, Mr. President? All these things are necessary for us to have a working PCR machine. And so I want to say that very shortly, we will have our PCR machine ready to do our tests. This is the peak season, Mr. President, and we are cognizant of that. And that is why we are moving at a pace in order to have the machine up and running. I want to thank PAHO for their continued support. We just have to reach out to them, and they are always there to assist. They are always there to help. So no longer, Mr. President, once we get that machine up and running, we have to send our results or samples elsewhere. In addition to that machine as well, we have another machine which will be installed shortly. This is called a Gene Expert. This machine is slightly different because it is programmed to test for COVID, but it is also programmed to test other viral infections. So this is a more sophisticated piece of equipment that we received from the Japanese government. And that will be commissioned shortly. So in short order, Mr. President, we will have a full complement of machine to do our COVID-19 testing and other viral infectious disease testing as well. Mr. President, it was mentioned this morning that we are thankful to the persons who donate. And yes, we are thankful. The understanding I got was that we are not buying things for ourselves, but we are cap in hand, seeking for gifts. But Mr. President, the whole business and administration of health is financially intensive. Everywhere you go, especially in our small island development states, we are seeking every assistance we can get. Nothing is wrong with that. And so if somebody comes and says they're going to give us a CT scan tomorrow, we must turn it down. Or what the next machine name? Whatever. If they are giving something, we embrace them and we said, yes, thank you very much. Exactly, exactly. That is the point, Mr. President. We saw the needs. We have a list. We have a long list. My permanent secretary tell you, we have a long list. And so when persons come to ask, what are our needs? Bam, we have our list ready. And you take your pick from the list as to what you want to send us. It's a prioritized list. So the top 3, they're in order. They will know what our top priority is. They know what our 3 top priorities are, Mr. President. And so when they come and ask, how can we help you? We have our list ready to present, Mr. President. And so I am very happy that these persons would have come, our major stakeholders would have come forward to assist us in our cry for upgrade to our facilities. Exactly. In addition to the gifts that we got, Mr. President, we were able to buy some things on our own. Hematology analyzer, 20,000 US. Oxygen concentrators, another $20,000. A vaccine refrigerator, 13,000 US dollars. And other supplies, ventilators, other supplies, Mr. President, we were able to buy during this turbulent time. This is commendable. This is indeed commendable. So in as much as we are getting gifts, we try to help ourselves. The good book at least says, God help those who help themselves. So we are trying to help ourselves. And he would have sent angels to help us as well. During this time, Mr. President, we would have seen a number of persons. I guess the level of stress is so high. We would have seen a number of persons becoming ill in all sorts of areas. Illnesses I never knew existed, but they are there. This caring government, Mr. President, has from March last year to present, November last, assisted Nevisions with their medical emergencies to the tune of $750,182 directly out of the government coffers, and $750,182 out of government coffers, Mr. President. We continue to help. And I will continue as I go along. I would show you more where we would have assisted our people. But at this time, Mr. President, Corona came. And I want to place on record our profound thanks to the government and people of Cuba. We would have enjoyed a very long-lasting relationship with this country. And when COVID came, they deployed 1 doctor and 5 nurses to Nevis. But they were a part of a larger contingent that came to St. Kitts and Nevis. But those 1 doctor and 5 nurses came to Nevis. And they did an incredible job. They came for I think 12 months in the first instance, and they ended up spending 18 months, Mr. President. So we have to be thankful to them. They brought their expertise. They brought good measure. And our local technicians learned from them. They would have had a very close working relationship. As a matter of fact, we would have made a request based on what they would have said to us. They want to come back. And we would have made a request for Cuba to send them back. So as soon as Cuba reopens, Mr. President, we will have some, if not all of them, at least we will have a construct of 5 nurses and 1 doctor to return to Nevis to assist in our health care program as well. We have learned some lessons from the coronavirus. At least we must have learned that we could do more with less. But it has also opened to us and shown us that we have some inefficiencies that we have to deal with. And that is one of the areas. We have been suffering for a very long time, short staff with our nurses. And so, with Corona and the lesson that we have learned, we are now trying to build our stock. As we are saying now, we are trying to build back better. And so, I want to say, Mr. President, I want to report that presently, there are 10 nursing students from right here in Nevis, presently at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. Not 1, not 2, not 4, 10. 10. And to add to that, Mr. President, I want to say that they are funded by this administration. Building back better, we are building our stock. We also have 2 nurses in Jamaica, 2 registered nurses, 1 studying anesthesia and another theater technician. When we roll out in the new building, we have to have a new skill set. We are building our skill set, Mr. President. And so we are training. And there are another 2 nurses in St. Kitts completing their midwifery course. They are all funded by this government, Mr. President. Building our human resource stock in the health services sector. This is indeed commendable. But from this rostrum, I want to place a clarion call to our young students out there who are coming back with 10 and 12 subjects. I want them to think of the healthcare sector, of nursing, to be their profession of choice. It's a noble profession, Mr. President, and I would want them. And we are looking for males, we are looking for females. In the new year, Mr. President, there are some students who have shown interest in the nursing profession. However, they do not have the requisite science subjects. So for those nurses those persons who have the passion for that, we will be accommodating a class, a science class, especially for these persons, so that they can then have the requisite qualification that will allow them to apply to the nursing faculty in St. Kitts. So, Mr. President, I'm saying from this rostrum, young people, make nursing or make a career in the health profession your profession of choice. In addition to COVID, Mr. President, we have other challenges. We are continually plagued by the NCDs, the hypertension and the diabetes. We are trying, Mr. President, to curb these illnesses. but we continue to see a rise. And so in as much as we are fighting COVID on one hand, we still have to balance the resources and balance our technical advice and our expertise in treating the different cancers, bringing awareness to the different cancers and the hypertension and the diabetes. So I want to encourage us individually, because we have to take an individual approach to our health. We have to be individually responsible. So I want to encourage us as much as possible to try and eat better. More fruits, more vegetables, drink a lot more water, exercise, eat more local produce. Ever so often you hear agriculture advertising their local market, what do we call them, all over. We are encouraging persons to eat as much local stuff as possible. The sea is very therapeutic. From any place you are on Nevis, you can see the sea. You go there and you distress. If you can't swim, you just duck a couple of times and, relax so you can get your stress levels down. We are encouraging persons to eat better. I want to say to parents, during this Christmas season, the children are out for one whole month. You have to put some brakes on them. You have to monitor them. Less sweet, less candy, less sugary drinks. We have and cake. I mean, a little slice here and there is not a bad thing, but we have to cut back. And it is because, in some cases, because some children are left at home not being monitored. They have free reign to eat down your fridge. But restock the fridge with some fruits and water, and hide the sweet and the candy. The Christmas day they can get a treat. But we have to make a concerted effort to encourage our children to eat differently and to eat right from this very early age. They have to acquire a taste for salads and more water and leave the fruit juice. Ginger is in, sorrel is in, you don't have to sweeten it so highly. Carambola is in abundance. Golden apple and passion fruit, they're all in season right now. And you control the amount of sugar that you put into these things. So when we are leaving home, parents, when we are leaving home in the morning, we make a picture of some one of these drinks and they put it in the fridge. You don't sweeten it, you hide the sugar. And encourage our children to drink less sweet and use more water. Mr. President, I want to say that, and I started the point earlier, that healthcare and delivering healthcare is expensive business. There's no ifs, no buts, no baby about that. And so we continue to say thanks and have gratitude to our stakeholders, our partners, our donors, and supporters in the healthcare service and all they would have done for us in Nevis. I am exceedingly happy to report, Mr. President, that very soon the Alexandria Hospital, the Nevis Island Administration, and the people of Nevis will be the recipients of a brand new state-of-the-art CT scan machine. Mr. President, I have come here year after year after year, singing and begging the Premier to please help me buy a CT scan machine. But Mr. President, we had to do, but no, it does not just come like that. We had to do the research. We had to do the feasibility study. If we were to buy it from government's coffers, the payback and the time. We had to do all that. But I want to say, Mr. President, that one of our kind donors, the Drahi Foundation, has come forward, and they have donated a brand new state-of-the-art CT scan machine. Mr. Premier, you gave us the figure yesterday as to the cost. 800 and something. Yes, I don't have the figure. But it was mentioned in the budget yesterday, Mr. President. We are expecting this machine to arrive at the end of the first quarter. And then, upon arrival, we have the setup, the commissioning and all that, the process, what I spoke about. 839,000 US dollars. 839,000 US dollars. I want to say that again so that persons get the figures right. And as I said before, there is a process. So once the machine arrives on Nevis, then there will be the setup and the commissioning before it is available for use. But we are looking to the end of the first quarter of 2022 to receive this valuable gift. I want us to give thanks and appreciation to the Drahi Foundation. Okay. As I would have said earlier, that foundation also presented to us the PCR machine. So it's the PCR machine and the CT scan. I also want to say thank you to our other generous donations, for our generous donors for their donations during 2021. Miss Janet Maynard, through her foundation, Circle of Care, always helping. She donated cleaning and sanitizing supplies, hospital furniture, beds, tables, chairs, etc. And we must say thanks to Janet. She's always donating. Then we had the SMOKH Foundation, and that stands for Sacred Medical Order Knights of Hope. And they too would have donated cleaning and sanitizing supplies, masks, gowns, etc. to the tune of 100,000 US dollars. We have to be grateful and say thank you to these donors. We also got from the US government a field hospital. And what this is, Mr. President, is what you call it? A movable structure. And it is extra additional room space, hospital space, in the event of disasters. If we were to get a breakout, we can use this structure to isolate persons so that the normal work and the normal processes could continue at the hospital. And so we want to place on record our thanks and gratitude to the United States government for the field hospital as well as other medical supplies. This medical hospital, this field hospital, it was assembled in St. Kitts in October, and some of our workers from the hospital, public works, and fire and rescue, disaster, they would have gone over and were a part of the installation process. So we have our field hospital already, and so we have trained personnel on hand to erect if the need arises. I also want to express thanks and gratitude to Mr. and Mrs. Bruno Moniville of Switzerland through their local agent here, Mr. Adrian Daniel. They donated 100,000 US worth of critical equipment for pediatric and the maternity wards. And some of the items are a crash cart, infant incubators, skin temperature probes, an electric maternity delivery bed, jaundice meter and resuscitation unit, and fetal maternal monitors with cats. Mr. President, I know you wouldn't understand what these equipment are for, but what I can say is that the technicians at Alexandra are eternally grateful for these timely donations. And yes, we are indeed grateful. So as an administration, Mr. President, we continue to register our thanks to all these donors for sticking with us and giving us of their best. It has not been just this year. It has been years prior. But they continue to donate handsomely to healthcare in Nevis. And so I want to thank them immensely for their donations.
You need to encourage people to
Paho is a household name to us. Paho has been a tower of strength. They have been guiding us, training, and doing all that for our workers. And so we want to thank Paho as well for their continued service. We want to thank them immensely for all that they have done and they continue to do in giving us the guidance and assistance in health services here in Nevis. Mr. President, I move on to Gender Affairs, which is a department under the ministry. And I would like to welcome and wish them, what am I saying? Before I start with gender, Mr. President, I want to welcome, during the year under review, we had some new employment. In as much as the Premier would have told me that we're not going to employ anybody else, there were some areas that we just had to fill. And so he gave me the permission to employ a few persons. And I want to welcome them into the health family. We are a family in the Ministry of Health, and so we want to give them that warm health welcome. Ernesia Pemberton, medical technician. Callis Farrell, medical doctor. Dr. Crystal Keynes, a medical doctor. Sherilyn Doe Stapleton, EMT. Aaron Bromwell, EMT. Maybelline Kabulana, a nurse. She must be one of our nurses from the Philippines. We would have had to resort to importing nurses from the Philippines to add to our stock, and so she's one of them. But as I said before, Mr. President, we are building back better, and so we are recruiting our own nurses. And so Akeisha McDonald is a registered nurse, Shakila Walters, registered nurse, Melinda Liebert, registered nurse. These three nurses are local divisions. They would have finished their training over in St. Kitts and would have done the overseas exam. So we welcome them back. Similarly, Mr. President, in as much as we would have had persons coming in, we had some retirees. We had some retirees who would have given yeoman service, dedicated service over the years. And I just want to highlight some of those who would have given a number. Well, they are all here, but I want to highlight some who would have given 20 plus years. Nurse Jacqueline Glassford, assistant nurse manager, 40 years. Jacqueline Doe, nurse assistant manager, 36 years. Ermin Jeffers, community nursing, 40 years. Miriam Freeman, a nursing attendant, 16 years. Martina Quealy Nursing attendant, 17 years. Glenford Herbert, radiographer, 37 years. Mr. President, these persons have given human service to the healthcare, and we are thankful to them, we are grateful, and we say to them, we appreciate them. We salute them for all they would have done for healthcare in Nevis, dear Jesus. Thank them, I thank them. Mr. President, we continue to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to appeal to the general public. I want to make a serious appeal to the general public. If you haven't taken the pandemic seriously, you must do so as a matter of urgency. There are still too many of us who have not yet recognized that we are fighting a war. This is a war, Mr. President. This pandemic is a war. Senator this morning said that there are some teachers who have still not taken the vaccine. And I can say the same, Mr. President, there are some persons in the healthcare system who have not yet taken the vaccine. Mr. President, I want to say from this rostrum that the pandemic is destructive. It has no respect, no regard for persons, whether you are black, you are white, you are rich, you are poor. It has absolutely no respect for any of us. It knows no political boundaries. And so I'm appealing to persons, all and sundry, that the best mechanism that we have at our disposal right now is the vaccination. I'm asking, I'm beseeching, I'm begging actually, that persons go out and be vaccinated. I want to target parents who have children between the ages of 12 and 18, that we have the Pfizer vaccine that is available to them. Encourage and take your children to get the vaccine as soon as possible. We want our country to return to some degree of normalcy. And I'm saying to the young people that you have a part to play as well. And your part is to take the vaccine so that we can return to what we once knew was our way of living. Mr. President, I move on to gender affairs, and we continue to make strides in empowering men and women. COVID, again, has caused us to sort of put some of our plans on hold, but we were still able to accomplish some during this period. And so, as a department, we continue to follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And during the year under review, Mr. President, we were able to do a number of training to assist women and men to become more resilient, especially those who would have lost their jobs, to retool them for other work, other jobs that were now available. Yes, some persons were out of their comfort zone, but they would have said to us that after the training, they were able to pick up a little job here or there. So it was a retooling process. And so we did a basket weaving program. And as I come to these projects, Mr. President, this morning it was said that we are not following the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to say, when you look at the basket weaving project, plumbing workshop for women, fruit and vegetable carving, we touched about 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 9, industry innovation. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, reducing inequalities, because we are now teaching women to do some men jobs and men to do some women jobs. Plumbing workshop for men, vegetable carving and food preparation for men as well. And so I want to point out that you don't have to have a placard and say this is what this is. But the programs, when they are planned with the Sustainable Development Goals in mind. We had the fish pot making, the Day of the Boy Child. That is a representation of Sustainable Development Goal number 11, sustainable communities. We're trying to keep the skill of fish pot making alive. That is our main source. We have to do some more work in the blue economy. And so we have to teach our youngsters how to be vigilant in going fishing and, you know, making more use of our ocean and our sea life. Then we had good health and well-being, because we had a day for the Day of the Girl Child. We had sailing and water aerobics. Good health and well-being. That is goal number 3. Good health and well-being. And you can also put number 10 under there, reducing inequalities, because girls were out there rowing boats and learning how to fish as well. So you see, Mr. President, we are following the Sustainable Development Goals. It's just that maybe a placard needs to be put out there for persons to see that we are doing these things. So we continue to have local training and seminars on gender sensitization, sexual harassment in the workplace, and gender-based violence. And so, Mr. President, it brings me to a very important point. Probably you're wondering why I'm so dressed in my orange today, because normally I wear sober colors to the house. But we wear orange today as a symbol of standing with persons who have suffered gender-based violence. So we continue to encourage persons to report any case of gender-based violence. One case of gender-based violence in Nevis is one too many. We have had a number of persons who would have died at the hands of these perpetrators, and we say that it must stop. As a part of the 16 days of activism, Friday being the last day, we're asking persons to wear orange, to stand in solidarity with those persons who have been victims of gender-based violence. In November, we had International Men's Month. And the highlight of International Men's Month was the second annual Men Can Cook Grill Masters competition. And this was done in collaboration with agriculture, because the meat kind that they were grilling came from agriculture. So we were showcasing what is being done at agriculture, the different cuts of meat, and I think they were judged on pork, ribs, and chicken. And this was all compliments of the Department of Agriculture. At the end of the competition, there were 5 participants, and at the end of the competition, Mr. Clivoy Jeffers was in 3rd place, Stasius Wallace in 2nd place, and Mr. Royston Queely was in 1st place. I must commend the men, because they did an excellent job within the time frame. They did an excellent job on the grill. And so I want to commend them highly. And up to now, there are persons who have been calling already to know when we're going to have the next grill master for men. But it was a very successful event, and I want to thank them for entering, and congratulations to the winners. So as I was saying, Mr. President, we wear orange this week because we're in the final week of the globally recognized 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Orange is the color for this crucial campaign that it runs every year. from the November 25th, that is International Human Rights Day, to December 10th. And so, as I said, we wear orange in solidarity for our persons who have been abused, who have suffered from gender-based violence. Mr. President, I want to turn my attention to solid waste. I have said time and time again from this rostrum that we are being continually plagued by indiscriminate dumping. But the good people at Solid Waste, they have been doing an excellent job. And I want to commend them highly for a job well done. We continue to encourage persons to dispose of their waste properly. We have spent thousands of dollars buying bins, trucks, and all sorts. And we're just asking persons to kindly take their garbage there to the landfill, especially truckers. I am talking to truckers, Mr. President, because they are the ones who are the perpetrators. They take people's money, especially from the construction sites. They take people's money under the guise that they are taking the waste materials to the land site. And then we find all sorts of dumps just cropping up all over the place, Mr. President. I'm talking to the truckers, first and foremost. The working hours at the landfill has been extended from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's how long, Mr. President? 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It is enough time for them to take their garbage to the landfill. I'm also speaking to those persons who have white materials. This is Christmas, and I know persons going to be throwing out their old washing machine and old stove. Please don't create a brand new dump. Please take it to the landfill. The tipping fees are not prohibitive. I would have come here and outlined the fees some time and time again. They are not prohibitive. So I don't understand why we keep doing it. We are not a people of lawlessness. We are not a people of just being untidy. We need to stop this. Wherever this culture has come from, we need to stop it. As Nevisians, we see anybody else dumping where they ought not to dump, we need to call them out on this, because that is not what we are accustomed to, right? And so I want to continue to congratulate and encourage Solid Waste for what they have been doing. For this year, they would have bought 50 90 gallons wheelie bins. They have bought 13 skips. These are the big green bins that you see all over the place. They can't hide, they're green. And the green is a shocking color green, so you can't hide. But what I have been seeing when I pass these skips, Mr. President, is that the garbage, the bin is there and the garbage is on the side. I am not understanding what is going on with us as a people. I am saying, if when you go there, the bin is full, take your garbage back home and come back tomorrow when it's empty. You don't have to leave your garbage there for somebody else to take up. The bins are there for you to throw your garbage in the bins. So I am saying, Mr. President, that our workers, they have been doing a good job. They would have also bought a bin truck to the tune of $140,000. Mr. President, the authority continues to explore practical and sustainable waste management options as we are fast running out of space. I've been saying that for a while, and they are getting somewhere. They would have had a number of proposals for incineration and other forms of other ways of other options of dealing with waste management. And so it is before the authority at this point, and I'm certain that very soon we will see something ahead so that we can look at alternate measures of dealing with our waste. And so, Mr. President, I continue to applaud the efforts of all those who have been on the front line for the COVID pandemic. All the healthcare workers. I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Judy Nisbet, Dr. Retna Walwin and their team at the Health EOC at Long Point. We cannot thank them enough. I want to thank them immensely. Right now, our numbers are down, and they have been doing an excellent job at testing, retesting, tracking, tracing, and keeping our people safe. So I want to thank them very much for all they have been doing. At this point, Mr. President, you are aware that every year we have the Medical University of the Americas Scholarship. This year, our recipients were Miss Dakia Liebert, and she has left to study a bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in maths, and Miss Asha Hanley Walters, who is studying for a bachelor's degree in radiology at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. I would like to encourage them and remind them that they ought to remain focused and do their best. So, Mr. President, I'm wrapping up now, Mr. President. No, Mr. President is watching as if. Mr. President, as we approach the end of another year, I would like to place on record my profound thanks to the entire team of the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs. They are all in the gallery this afternoon. Mr. President, I want to do something unprecedented. Could you please stand, let them see the staff, the technical people. Very good. Solid Waste is represented behind me as well. Good. Mr. President, that I'm very thankful that they would have come to give their support today, and I want to thank them for an excellent run over the past 4 years, but specifically the past 2 years. We would have had to dig deep. We would have had to redouble our efforts. We would have had to almost make milk out of stone to get things done because of what we have been going through and the limited resources we have to do it. We have had to jump through hoops. But I want to thank them very much for their support. PS and Assistant PS and your staff, all heads of departments and their support staff, Medical Chief of Staff and all the doctors at Alexandra, the matron and her assistant matrons and all the nurses at Alexandra, the public health nurses and their staff on the district. I want to say how grateful I am to you for working with me, in particular the last 2 years. I salute you for your years of dedicated service and for raising the bar of delivering healthcare in Nevis. In as much as some persons are complaining about healthcare, there are more persons who are applauding the efforts and saying that their experience at Alexandria and at the health centers are much better than what are saying otherwise. So I want to applaud them for their efforts. The entire Nevis Island administration appreciates your dedication, your commitment and hard work. I want to say that in front of them. They appreciate you. They're saluting you. All you have been doing. Terribly rough. Mr. President, it is the festive season, and so I would like to close my presentation today by wishing all a very blessed and joyous Christmas, and may 2022 be prosperous, be less challenging, and that we will be able to turn the corner on this pandemic so that we can return to some sense of normalcy. To you, Mr. President, and your family, the clerk of the House, colleagues on the other side, member opposite, officer at arms, those who are listening and watching via the media, to the entire constituent of Nevis, may you have a wonderful Christmas and prosperity for the new year. I would therefore, Mr. President, like to wish this bill a safe passage through this honorable House. May it please you.
I have a note from the Honorable Cleon Simmons indicating that she is not going to be here this afternoon as she has an emergency, but hopefully she will be here tomorrow, God's willing, and I ask that the House accept her apologies. You may proceed. Could you, apologies were accepted by the Honorable House, Ms. Fleur? Could you convey that, please? I said, could you convey that her apologies were accepted?
Mr. President,
Miss Randy Williams brought in her contingent. I suppose that yours not going to come this afternoon? Yeah.
I had some of my contingent here. Mr. President, I rise with your leave to make my presentation and to give my overwhelming support to the bill before this Honorable House, the Nevis Appropriation 2021-2022, Ordinance 2021. And Mr. President, I'm here to present my report card for my ministry. And of course, Mr. President, before I do so, I just want to commend very highly the mover of the bill, the Minister of Finance and the Honorable Premier, who I think did an outstanding job. This is a budget of substance. This is a budget of hope, Mr. President, and the Premier and the mover of the bill. When I sat there yesterday, Mr. President, and I listened to the mover of the bill, and with all that has been outlined in this document, Mr. President, recapturing the momentum, restoring fiscal sustainability, I was in awe, and I have to admit, because even though I'm a part of this very caring administration, Mr. President, I still couldn't believe that in 12 short months, under some very challenging times, that this administration was able to accomplish so much. Mr. President, I think we here in Nevis, we have taken it for granted how much and how well we have weathered this pandemic. Because when we look at the other islands in the region, Mr. President, they haven't done as half as well as we have done here in little Nevis, little tiny Nevis. And I think we ought to be commended. And I believe not only the administration, but all divisions, all residents, all of us who reside on this beautiful island paradise ought to be commended on how well we have weathered the pandemic. We have done an extraordinary job, and we should be proud as an administration. And we should all be proud as divisions and residents of how well we have come through the COVID-19 pandemic. And in the same vein, Mr. President, when I sat and I listened to the presentation by the Premier and the Minister of Finance, and all of what has been outlined in this document, 58 pages, excellent work, outlining what we will do in fiscal year 2022. And when I sat and I listened to this, and then this morning, when I sat and I listened to what was presented from the member opposite, I keep wondering whether or not we are living in the same Nevis. I wonder if we are living in the same 36 square mile island Nevis. because I heard gloom and doom coming from the opposite benches. And that is not what is happening in Nevis. So I'm sorry that she's not here this afternoon, because I was going to tell her to wake up. Wake up! Because what has been presented in this is facts. This administration always comes with facts. We don't come with any fiction. Facts. And as I said, I was a little disappointed that the member opposite could come here to this honorable house and try to deceive the good people of Nevis. And not only the good people of Nevis, because remember, we are being live streamed all over the world, and try to deceive persons who are listening, persons who are viewing, into believing that nothing is happening in Nevis. You know, Mr. President, I just listen to Vaughn at mornings, right? And Webber likes to play a song. I believe Webber likes this song, and I like this song too. Got a good bounce. Got a good bounce. And I think this song is saying something about treadmill. And the song is suggesting that your body moving, your feet moving, your body aching, but you're on a treadmill, so you have to stand still. And when I heard that song this morning, and when I came here and I listened to the presentation from the member opposite, I have nothing but to say that the opposition is on a treadmill. They are at a standstill. The body moving, the hands moving, but they are at a standstill. And it's because they are at a standstill. Why? The electorate will speak and speak loudly in the next election. And they will remain at a standstill, Mr. President. So they're going to remain on the treadmill. So we will play this song every morning. They will remain on the treadmill at a standstill. Mr. President, let me turn quickly now to some accomplishments from my ministry. And let me start in the area of youth. And Mr. President, of course we all know that this has been a challenging year. But from what I have to report, Mr. President, I have had to be trimming and trimming and trimming for the past days. Because what I had to report from my ministry would have probably taken the rest of the day. And I'm serious. I'm very, very serious. Because I was amazed at the accomplishments that my ministry has gotten over the past 12 months with little funds, reduced funds, and under the pandemic. And so I started with the Department of Youth. And of course that department would have remained very relevant, as have all the departments remained in my ministry in 2021. And the Department of Youth, a very small department, but very dynamic. And this year they decided to focus quite a bit on climate change, which I was very happy for, because you know I hold that Ministry of Environment over in the federal cabinet. And so I was very happy when the Department of Youth decided for 2021 they will focus a lot on climate change. And I must say they did an excellent job in promoting and advocating for us to act better, to mitigate the effects of climate change, and to save our planet Earth. And so there are a number of initiatives that they would have done during the year, which I commend. They would have appointed some green ambassadors. 6 persons stepped forward, and there we still have 4. The 4 are Truvana Richards, Nikesha Henry, Dylan Smith, and Analia Powell. We want to thank those green ambassadors. And one of the main things they did during the year, Mr. President, which I commend them very highly for, is the production of what we call a Save the Earth music video. And I hope all of us in here have looked at that video. It's an excellent piece of work, done right here in Nevis by our young people, pioneered by the Department of Youth. And as I said, the video is calling on all of us, and in particular young people, because that is why they decided to use young persons, because we wanted the young person to be included in what we're doing to fight climate change. And I have to say as well that the video was shared locally, it was shared regionally, and it was shared internationally. As a matter of fact, it made it to COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland. It made it there. So kudos to the Department of Youth. Mr. President, in the area of climate change as well, we had what we call Conversations in Nature. And of course, that series was birthed out of the fact that we wanted to engage our green ambassadors that I spoke about a while ago. We had what we call the Youth Beach Games. That was a part of Youth Month. And you know, when you're talking about beach and you're talking about games, you're talking about fun. But Mr. President, what was done here is that we had over 70 young persons at Wally in April, and they were learning about marine conservation. Because we know what we have been doing. Madam Minister spoke about illegal dumping and indiscriminate dumping, and some of that ends up in the sea. And so our young people at that Youth Beach Games, Mr. President, they were learning a lot about conservation and the importance of marine conservation. And it was held in collaboration with the Swim to Win initiative, as well as the Aquatic Sailing Center. We also had a 30-day climate change challenge, and young persons were invited to participate. I want to congratulate Mr. Chris Clark for winning that challenge. And apart from what was done in climate change, we've also been fortunate in getting some Global Environment Facility GEF funding. And from next year, we will be rolling out some programs for capacity building with our youth groups. Mr. President, some of the young persons were also involved in first aid training. And I spoke earlier about our activities for Youth Month, included a church service, the Youth Beach Games, a moonlight walk. And the highlight of Youth Month, Mr. President, myself and the small dynamic team at the Department of Youth, we gathered at the Artisan Village, and we did what is called a toast to Mother Earth on Earth Day. Mr. President, of course we know that our young people have done some marvelous things on the island of Nevis. And so when young people shine, we need to recognize them. And my Department of Youth would have come up with this initiative called the Youth Impact 12 Award. It started last year, and we've had it again for this year. And so we've had 9 persons who were awarded this year. And let me just recognize those 9 persons, Mr. President. We had Brendan Claxton for Education and Lifelong Learning. We had Merville Janelle Nisbet for Patriotism, Maliko Kamu, Volunteerism, Shakir Stapleton, Youth Development, Davian Griffin, Youth in the Arts, Deandra Archibald, Volunteerism, Yasu Lacey Flanders Grant, Youth in Entrepreneurship, Jevon Claxton, Youth in Technology, and Giovanni Tyson, Sports Excellence. Let me once again congratulate these 9 persons, very deserving persons, for the award. I would also like to recognize 3 persons from Nevis who were recognized on the 25th of November for the 25 most remarkable teens. And those persons were Tiger Brown for Sports Excellence, Shamali Newton for Entrepreneurship, and Mia Alexander Beacon of Hope. Quickly, in terms of our plans from the Department of Youth for next year, we will further regulate the operation of our youth groups. We'll continue to celebrate our youth practitioners. The Jeff-funded project will commence next year. We have the Commonwealth Secretariat and the CARICOM Secretariat. They are putting together a series of training programs because we recognize that during these past 2 years, with the COVID-19 pandemic, persons have had, including young people, some mental issues. And so they will be putting together some training for young persons who may have been suffering some mental issues as a result of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We will continue with our climate change advocacy, and we want to increase our green ambassadors from 4 to 8. And we will continue to host climate change seminars. We also want to inspire fashion designers to incorporate sustainable fashion in their fashion line. And we'll be reviewing the federal youth policy. And of course, we'll continue with our programs for the Impact Youth 12, as well as the Remarkable Teens. Turning now, Mr. President, to the Department of Sports, and sports in general. Now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. President, sports has been affected dramatically, very much so. And a lot of the sports activities had to be curtailed, unfortunately. But irrespective of that, there's so many accomplishments that we can talk about over the past 12 months. We speak first about netball, and we had the relaunch of the Grassroots netball program. We had an Easter camp. We had over 60 girls who took part in that, and we had over 40 persons who attended development programs on Saturdays. If you recall, Mr. President, last year when I was here, I bragged about the return of netball to Nevis. And we are happy that we were able to get that accomplished. And coming out of the return of netball, and coming out of the return of the St. Kitts and Nevis Netball Association, of which persons from Nevis are a part, and they came to Nevis to have their first meeting. Coming out of all of that, we are seeing a resurgence of netball on the island of Nevis. Big time. As a matter of fact, we have ongoing right now, and the Department of Sports is facilitating, we have some netball competitions between St. Kitts and Nevis to select a St. Kitts and Nevis netball team. Mr. President, in the area of football, we also have our youth football program as well, which has been going extremely well over the past years. And we had an average of 30 players during our Easter camp. And also in the area of football, bragging rights again, Mr. President. We go in places in this little island. Kenya Virgo, Adelicia Gracia, Angelique Newton, and Brianna Miranda. They all made it to the under-14 national female football team. We also had Jamal Lewis and Chris Brown, who made it to the under-15 national football male team. And these persons traveled to the Dominican Republic in August and September to take part in a competition. That's not all. We also had Yolinda Warner and Leroy Paris, who traveled as officials for that tournament in the Dominican Republic, Mr. President. As I speak about football, this coming Sunday, the 12th of December, we'll be having some football, 2 matches at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. And I have to say that we have done an enormous amount of work at the stadium there. We call it Mondo Track, to get the football field up, because we have big plans for over there, Mr. President. Huge plans for over there for 2022. And so we'll be having 2 games there this coming Sunday, and persons are free to come. Spectators are free to come. All the COVID protocols will be in place, but we have 2 games. I think one is around 4 and one is around 6. And so persons will be able to come and see local football. And that is just a way of launching off our activities over at that facility. Because, you know, we've had an issue at the ETW Park, where sometimes football has to be played, sometimes cricket has to be played. And you know, when we would have gone to the Mondo Track, the athletic facility, we know that there's a fantastic infield, which will now be used for football as well, Mr. President. It's designed for that as well. And so we have done some work there. I am proud to say that my ministry has put in a lot of work there, and we will see the fruits of that work come Sunday and from next year, Mr. President. We'll be going all out to market over there for sports tourism. And we are hopeful, as a matter of fact, before the onset of the pandemic, we already had plans to hold a regional tournament over there. A regional tournament was supposed to be held there. But big bad old COVID came and messed things up. As a matter of fact, some of the teams had already booked to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel. And so we're hoping that down the road, that tournament could come again. Athletics, Mr. President. And of course, it's nice to come right off of football into athletics, because we were just talking about the athletic stadium. And because we have invested a lot of money in that facility, Mr. President, which we got a lot of licks for, but we are now seeing the successes. Mr. Leroy Chapman traveled to Costa Rica earlier this year to take part in a tournament. And he did not medal, but he performed creditably. And that, I believe, is because of the excellent, part of it is because of the excellent training that he was able to receive at the Mondo Track facility. And I'm also happy to report, I know the Premier would have said it in his press conference recently, that young Leroy will be going off to Monroe College in New York in January. Congratulations to him. A scholarship, athletic scholarship. Proud of you, Leroy. And another division, Tash Liburd. He would have been to Colombia just recently returned. Didn't medal either, performed well at the Pan Am Games. And he as well will be going to university in the US, at Cumberland University in Tennessee in January. Congratulations to him as well. And as I talk about the Pan Am Games, I want to just congratulate Miss Amaya Clark for winning a silver medal at that tournament. Mr. President, let me turn a little bit to swimming, because when Madam Minister was here, she talked about the sea being so therapeutic. And I believe in that. The sea is therapeutic. And she was also saying, if you can't swim, just go and duck. But my ministry, through the Department of Sports, with the assistance of some partners, we have what is called a Swim to Win initiative. Started 2 years ago, but it has grown in leaps and bounds. Mr. President, that initiative has grown so much in a short period of time. It has reached so many persons. And the aim of this initiative, Mr. President, is to take the fear out of people for entering the water. So if anyone is watching or listening and you want to learn to swim, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're in between, we ain't turning back anybody. Because we had a ceremony there at Hamilton Beach 2 Sundays ago. And I think a gentleman was there who was over 80 years, who was learning to swim. Over 80. I think he was 87. Yes? 87 years, I believe. And it shows there are no boundaries. If you want to learn, we will accept you. And so we would have started this initiative. And in 2 short years, we would have done so much. Over the past year, we would have done 3 6-week Sunday sessions, reaching 126 swimmers. We would have introduced the Christina Memorial Summer Swimming Camp in July. It reached 16 instructors and close to 100 students, including our students from the Cicely Brown Integrated School, which I'm proud of. We've had the start of private and semi-private lessons for adults. We've reached 19 new swimmers. We've had free community Get Your Feet Wet, which reached 13 new swimmers. And so over 222 swimmers participated in the Swim to Win in 2021. And this is not just about teaching persons to swim. This is about teaching persons to swim the right way, because we don't want just to teach people to swim from this program, you know. We want later down the road, we want people to reach the Olympics. We want people to reach regional games. And so we are also teaching instructors as well. And so we have level 1 and we have level 2 instructors. We have volunteers, and so we are reaching a lot of persons. So the clarion call is going out again. For those of you who do not know how to swim and you want to learn to swim, please come on board and see the Department of Youth. And so in the short 2 years, we have reached about 300 swimmers, Mr. President. And that is no easy feat. As we talk about swimming, I told you we have been going places from this little island, you know. Mr. Winston Crook, he would have traveled to Tokyo, Japan, to officiate in the Summer Paralympics. He was one of only 2 persons from the Caribbean region who would have traveled there to participate or to officiate in those games. In the area of sports excellence, Mr. President, for International Women's Day this year, we would have celebrated a number of our female sports personalities, and they were Maritza Williams for athletics, Lydia Claxton, netball, Giovanni Manos Hendrickson, administration and community sports, Terry Andrews, Special Olympics, and Shakima Wanda Parry, France, for basketball. Mr. President, I turn to the big area now. The big news, cricket. Because we've had some huge, massive news this past weekend about cricket. And I stand here and I'm extremely proud. Very proud. Because you know why I'm so proud, Mr. President? Because this administration, this ministry that I am fortunate to lead, has been front and center with all sporting disciplines on this island of Nevis. And I believe, without the shadow of a doubt, cricket has gotten the most. The most money has been spent on cricket. And so when good things happen in cricket, we have to brag. And we have to feel good. Not only us in the administration, but all of us in Nevis. Well, yes, I'm doing my job, but I'm doing it good. This administration doing its job and we're doing it good. And that's why they're going to put us back again to do it better. That's why they're going to keep putting this administration there, because we are doing our job and we're doing a competent job, Mr. President. Nobody can dispute that. Nobody can dispute that, Mr. President. We're doing a competent job. And that is why the people of Nevis continue to invest their confidence in us, and they will continue to invest their confidence in this dream team. This dream team. Good government. Good governance. Good government, good governance. Irrespective of the fluff on you hear, coming from the opposite side. Mr. President, let me get down to the business of the cricket now. And Mr. President, as I said, we heard some big breaking news this past weekend, right? And you know what the big breaking news be? There will be an under-19 World Cup. You hear what I say? World Cup coming to the West Indies starting next month. St. Kitts and Nevis will be hosting some of the games. Mr. President, out of the 15-man squad, let me slow down. Let me slow down. Mr. President, out of the 15-member squad for the Rising Stars under 19 West Indies team, Nevis landed a 5th. 3 out of 15. And you know, Mr. President, we should have landed 4. We should have landed 4. Mr. President, let me go back a little bit to the journey how this started. Earlier this year, Mr. President, we had 5 young cricketing stars from Nevis who traveled to Antigua, and they were involved in some trial matches because there was a tournament that was supposed to be played in England. And so our 5 young stars who traveled there were Onaje Amri, Jaden Carmichael, Justin Amadan, Carlin Bowen Tuckett, and Acadiento Willett. I've been following it, so I can reel off the names them. Right? We had 5 of our young cricketing stars who would have traveled to Antigua to take part in those trial matches. Out of the 5, 3 would have made the team to go to England. Amadan, Amri, and Bowen Tuckett. They left, and they did well up there. They came back, and they had to go to Antigua again for some more trial matches to pick the final squad for the under-19 Rising Stars, Mr. President. And so we had, fortunately, Jaden Carmichael was able to rejoin those 3, and the 4 of them traveled to Antigua again to take part in the trial matches. And when it came down to the wire, when it came to the announcement came, and we were all glowing in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because when the announcement came, it said 3 persons made it: Onaje Amri, Carlin Bowen Tuckett, and Jaden Carmichael, and Justin Amadan was in the reserves. And as I said, Mr. President, I've looked at all of these youngsters, all excellent players, have a lot of promise. Have all done very well here in Nevis. They would have shone in Antigua, shone brightly, they would have shone in England. And I have to say, as I said a while ago, Mr. President, I firmly believe that it's because Nevis so small they didn't want to put in the 4. It's because Nevis so small they didn't want to put in the 4. Because I have to say that young Amadan, the statistics would show that he is just as good or better than all the other persons in the team. And so he should have been in there. But we'll accept him as a reserve, and he's just a stepping stone. So I want to use this rostrum to congratulate all 4 young cricketers, young divisions, and their parents and their supporters for doing an outstanding job, making Nevis proud, making the Federation proud, making themselves proud, making their parents proud. And I want to wish them well on this journey, because I believe from the potential and from the raw talent that they have, that I have seen on the field of play, that they're going to reach very far. So I'm asking you young men to keep your head on and stay focused. Stay with the program, work hard, be committed to your game, and I believe you can reach far. Set your eyes on the big team. This is a stepping stone. Set your eyes on the big team. And right, when you consider those big islands, Mr. President, we get a fifth of the team. When you consider those big islands, tiny Nevis, I mean, that is a tremendous achievement. And as I said, the government have been with these youngsters from start, because they have come through our cricket programs in the primary school and the secondary school level. And so we can definitely say how happy we are, because we have been a part of that journey. This administration has been a part of that journey. I was told by a lovely young lady who gave me some stats. And she said that the last time that 3 divisions were in a West Indies team was back in the 1998 one-day series against England, when we had Stuart Williams, Keith Atherton, and Carl Tuckett. Right? And I believe all 3 of them would have had a hand in these young players as well. So I want to commend them as well. I want to especially commend Tuckett, Macefield Nisbet, and Gerard Trini Charles for working diligently and tirelessly with these youngsters to get them where they are today. And you know, Mr. President, sometimes people want to make you to believe that this administration and this ministry is not assisting. But I can tell you that these youngsters, since they came back from England, and when Jaden was here, they have been traveling to train with the Hurricanes in St. Kitts. And my ministry has been sponsoring their travel. My ministry has been sponsoring their travel back and forth. Back and forth. Investment in our young people, Mr. President. $60 per day, sometimes 3 days a week, for 4 cricketers. You do the maths. I can't do maths. I can't do maths. But I mean, this is investment in our young people, in our young sports personalities, to ensure that they are where they are today. And so once again, I really want to commend the young cricketers. We are very, very proud of you. Go out there and do your best. Parents, stand behind your children. Supporters, friends, let us all stand behind them. We want them to do well, and we want them to continue to shine. And so we wish them well. Mr. President, in terms of our sports facilities upgrades and enhancement, as I mentioned a while ago, we have done an enormous amount of work at the Nevis Athletic Stadium with regards to the football field. And we continue to work on it because we want it to get to perfection so that when we have, because as a matter of fact, persons from FIFA have come there, gone there, and they have looked at the facility and they are totally impressed, blown away by what we have here on this little island of Nevis. And so we have worked on it, and so we are expecting the fruits of our labor when things get back to normal. And when we have those regional and international tournaments, Nevis is going to get a share. Trust me, we will get our share. All right? When I normally come here to make my presentation, I always speak about looking after the sporting facilities. And I've said from the onset that we will ensure that all of the sporting facilities on Nevis have bathroom facilities. And we are getting there. I'm happy to report we ain't there yet, but we're getting there. We're doing things incrementally. We can't do everything one time. Because we always say that we are elected to serve for 5 years, so you can't do everything in 1 year. You have to spread it. And then even we ain't going to finish it in 5 years, because we know we're going to get another 5 and another 5 and another 5. And so we have to spread it. We have to spread it. But anyway, I'm happy to report that the Zion playing field is being utilized a lot again by cricketers. And so my ministry is partnering with a group from Gingerland, and we're doing a bathroom facility there at the Zion playing field. And so the others will come on stream sometime in the future. Mr. President, in terms of our plans, I'm very happy to say that all of the sporting facilities on Nevis will be getting lights. You hear me, Mr. President? You hear what I just said? All. A-L-L. All. 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 I mean, I talk a little dialect that while ago, right? But all will be getting lights. And those that do not have lights will be getting lights as well. So I said all. And Mr. President, I'm so proud to say that we're not only outfitting all the fields with lights, but we're doing a retrofit project as well. And so all of the fields that currently have lights, they will be getting new lights. You hear me? They will be getting new lights, more energy-saving lights. And we have actually started that project. And the project has started in Zion and at Hard Times, and those fields had no lights before. And so the project has started there. I don't want anybody to believe, because I am the Minister of Sports, that it started Gingerland. That's not the way, that's not how it was structured. It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that it's those two fields were started, but we're going to be rolling it out in its entirety in 2022. And so things are happening, Mr. President, right? In next year as well for sports, in terms of our plans, we want to revisit the launch of some of what we were supposed to do, but we had to curtail because of the COVID. And so we've had a community sports day plan, we had a master sports project, the Nevis Cross Country Championship Series, a Netball Super League. We're going to try to see what happens based on what happens with COVID for next year, right? And of course we know we've had some existing programs that we expect to continue. The Nevis High School Championships, the Women's T20 Blast, drag racing. And we will continue to focus on our infrastructure development and upgrade to our facilities. Those that do not have bathroom facilities, we want to try our utmost to ensure that they get. And we have a lot of work to do in terms of a lot more initiatives for Swim to Win as well in 2022. Mr. President, community development. And of course we know the Department of Community Development is trying its utmost to ensure that we have a lot more activities in the communities. We want to bring the communities together. Unfortunately, over the years, we have seen that loss of community spiritedness from our folks here in Nevis, and we want to bring that back. And so we have been doing a lot of activities in our communities to foster community spirit. We've been organizing some competitions and so on. One of the competitions was a Black History cake decorating competition that was held in February, Black History Month. That was hosted at the David Freeman Center of Excellence. It was an excellent competition, and I was there at the finals. And we also had the Jessup's Center anniversary concert that was held on February the 26th. We had a pastry making workshop hosted in March at the Butlers Community Center. We had 8 participants, and I'm sure you realize, Mr. President, that we are spreading our activities in all of the communities across the island. And then we had a youth baking workshop that was held at the Pond Hill Community Center. We had 24 participants. That was held in April. We had an Easter camp, and that was hosted in April as well at the Barnscott Community Center. And we had 8 children as part of that workshop. We had the Jessup Seafood Fiesta and Creative Seafood Dish Competition. We did that in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism. And I want to thank the Ministry of Tourism for coming on board and partnering with my ministry, my department, as well as the team at the Jessup's area for organizing that competition. It went exceptionally well. We had a My Ideal Community Essay Competition, and that was launched in Community Development Month in April. We had youths 12 to 18 years who took part in that competition, and 10 essays were submitted. We've heard this afternoon about how important the nursing profession is. And I'm happy to report that my department would have partnered with the Nevis nurses in hosting a forum at the Cotton Ground Community Center to encourage young persons to get into the profession of nursing. We've heard it's such a noble profession. We need more persons. We've heard that the nurses have to do 12-hour shifts, and we need more persons from the island of Nevis to be a part of that profession. And so the department would have partnered with the nurses to put on that forum to give persons more information about the profession and to encourage them to be a part of that profession as well. On Mother's Day, we had a Mother's Day give back for mothers in St. John's Parish. And we also had what we call a Know Your Community quiz. It was the first annual Know Your Community quiz held at the Bath Village Community Center. And the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School came out the winner for that competition. We also had a reading competition held at the Bath Community Center as well, the Alberta Payne Community Center, and we had the primary schools in Charlestown and in St. John's taking part in that competition. We had also, up in the Gingerland area, we had a St. George's Parish craft competition. And Mr. President, I must say how impressed I was with that competition, because children between the ages of 9 and 15 were asked to come up with a replica of a building in St. George. And they were asked to make that replica from popsicle sticks and cardboard. And I couldn't believe when I got there to the David Fremont Center of Excellence, the quality of the exhibits that I saw there. The quality that I saw there was truly remarkable. And I commend once again all who would have taken part in that competition, which was judged on the 3rd of December. We also had an independence cook-off competition over the Combermere community, the Franklin Brown Community Center. And of course, you realize that all of the community centers are being utilized. And so we are spreading our wings, and we want members of the community to get involved. When we organize these activities, we want the community members to get involved. And that was on Independence Day. We had persons who had to go and prepare and plate the national dish. We also have, Mr. President, which was launched a couple of weeks ago over at the Cotton Ground Community Center, a keyboard program. That is called a Community Keyboard Program. And I have to commend Ms. Myrtle Seabrooks, who lives overseas, who would have donated the keyboards and other pieces of the equipment as well. And we will be doing some classes over there. Some classes would have started. And of course, we know sometimes we don't have enough musicians on the island of Nevis. And so we are hoping that with the keyboards that have been donated there and with the keyboard program, we could have a lot more persons in the art of music on the island of Nevis. Also from the Community Department Division, we have a greenhouse and garden program being run in collaboration with the Ivor Walters Primary School. And there is apparently a greenhouse project there funded by the Global Environment Facility. So kudos to the Department of Community Development and the Ivor Walters Primary School. Now, in terms of plans for 2022, Mr. President, we will be implementing what is called the Community Advance Program, CAP, and that will be done in collaboration with the police. We'll be doing a community audit workshop. We'll be hosting a 4-day seminar to focus on community tourism, which is very important, and capacity building workshops for our community groups. Mr. President, let me turn quickly to social services. And this, Mr. President, has been one of the backbones of this administration during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Social Services Department. Because, Mr. President, we all know how challenging it has been over the past 2 years. We know how many persons would have lost their jobs. So we know how many persons would have been out of a job for the past probably 18 months. And, Mr. President, some persons have had it rough and tough. But this administration have stood by all persons on the island of Nevis during this rough time. And so because, Mr. President, it has been such a rough and challenging 2 years, the Department of Social Services has been a beacon of hope, a tower of strength in the Nevis Island administration to deal with issues regarding persons who have been left in the cold, who are not working, who are less fortunate, and we continue to work along with those persons to ensure that they have food on the table, they have uniforms for their children, we have improved living conditions. And so, over the past 2 years, the administrative staff at the Social Services Department would have had to work tirelessly. And when I said tirelessly, I mean tirelessly, Mr. President. When we had the lockdowns, when other persons from the government service were home, they were at work. They had to look after the people. The calls were coming in left, right, and center. Calls were coming in morning, noon, and night. And they had to be there to ensure that they answer to those calls. And they respond positively to those calls as well. And so I want to give high commendation to the administrative staff because of the influx of persons and requests, Mr. President. They have had to do a lot of work in terms of improving the way they get their data, the way they manage their data, and they have been doing an outstanding job where that is concerned. And I want to stick a pin here, Mr. President, because as an administration, we can't do it alone. Right? And you know, as the Senator Liebert said this morning, with the disrespect that was meted out here, to saying that we are like children sucking on people's breasts. Mr. President, as a government, we cannot do it alone, and so we have to forge partnerships. And I am happy that my Department of Social Services have forged a number of partnerships. And I want to just commend some of the partners. We have the South Florida Nevis Association, we have UNICEF, we have the Nevis Red Cross, we have Yatsman Grill, we have the Four Seasons Resort. And because of their assistance, Mr. President, hundreds of families across Nevis have been able to receive assistance. Because of their kind and generous assistance, many, many families have been able to receive assistance. So we want to say a hearty thank you to them. And of course, Mr. President, during the pandemic as well, our counselors have had to work overtime. Overtime. You know, we have a care center now, a counseling unit. And I think we have underestimated what the pandemic has done to the psyche of some of our persons on the island of Nevis. A lot of persons are walking out there, have issues, psychological issues. Some of them are afraid to come forward, maybe for pride reasons. But we want to tell persons out there who have issues, who want counseling, that the Department of Social Services is there to welcome you with open arms. We want to help you. We want to assist you. Because we don't want to have too many mental cases on the island of Nevis. And so persons who have issues, do not be afraid to come. The care center, the counseling unit, and they would have celebrated their first anniversary earlier this year. They would have had a month of activities, and I want to commend. It's a very small unit, but very effective. And so I want to commend them for the work that they have been doing during the past 12 months. Mr. President, last year when I was here, I spoke a lot about the Yes to Success program. And I can speak a lot about it again this year, because it has achieved so much in a short period of time. We are ensuring that everyone, including our at-risk youth, are taken care of, Mr. President. And so the Yes to Success program has been a shining light there at Pennies in terms of imparting skills training to the less fortunate, to the underprivileged. And in February of this year, we would have closed out the 6th cycle of the 3-month training program. And the skills that we focused on during that period were pottery making, heavy equipment operation, and we also had a digital jobs training component that was done by the OECS. 27 young persons started the program, and 18 persons saw it to completion. We are now into the 7th cycle of the Yes to Success program, Mr. President, and that program started in September and will conclude this month. And the areas that we're focusing on this year, plumbing and electrical courses, and on-the-job practical training. And UNICEF has also sponsored a hospitality preparedness training. Mr. President, I come to an important part here now, because as I listened there this morning, and I said I was in awe, I come now to talk about our seniors program. Right? I come now to speak about our seniors program. Because, Mr. President, almost every time I stand here and I speak about the seniors program, you know how passionate I get. Very, very passionate. And for us to sit here this morning and to hear the member opposite trying to indicate that our seniors on Nevis, on the island of Nevis, are not getting the required treatment that they deserve. I can't believe they're out of order. Totally out of order. And I'm sorry she isn't here, because I wanted to look her in the face and tell her to go and research and tell me or tell anyone on this side which island in the Caribbean, in any part of the world, has any seniors program that could compare to ours. Tell me. Try always say, go on Google. Go on Google or wherever else you want to find the information. And tell me. Look me in the face and tell me which island. We heard a lot about Barbados this morning. And you heard the evidence from the senator that Barbados is behind us with our GDP. We are way ahead. Our seniors program, Mr. President, is second to none and is a model for the rest of the Caribbean. A model. I mean, when you look at our seniors, Mr. President, the kind of treatment that our seniors get, they are beaming. I mean, the light and water program, Mr. President, the bus pass program, Mr. President, Mr. President, the recreational program, Mr. President, the Golden Nail Steel Orchestra. You ever see any seniors anywhere else you want to play steel pan? Tell me. Tell me. Coming to that. Mr. President, you see any other island in the region getting senior screen show? Oh my gosh. And if I have to stand here this afternoon and speak about our seniors program, Mr. President, where every year we don't have a seniors month in October. And that month does be so packed with activities. I just have to ask my staff at social services, are you going to kill the seniors? Are you going to kill them with love? And the seniors love it. The seniors love it. And so, Mr. President, when the member opposite could say how old people, we have to get their pride and dignity. Nobody have pride and dignity like our seniors on Nevis. Exactly. None. Exactly. None, nowhere in the world. And I want somebody to challenge me on that. Anybody, challenge me on that. Because our seniors get extra special attention. Extra special attention, Mr. President. And you know, Mr. President, I mean, even though we have the pandemic, we were still able to do a few things for the seniors this year. We had what we call a Meals on Wheels, Dinner for Independence. We had our Seniors Month. We had a few activities. And Mr. President, this is not my department. But, you know, when the member opposite was talking about seniors and treatment of seniors, I mean, only last week, I mean, my club that I'm the president of took out the seniors of Hanley's Ward. And listen, I have to say, I don't want any other seniors to get jealous, but this is something that was being done now, long time before I got into government. You know how much years we're doing it now? 17 years. Wow. 17 round years. The seniors of Nevis get excellent treatment. The seniors were beaming last week when they went around and when they went to Golden Rock for lunch. I mean, come on. I had one of my relatives overseas say, Lord Eric, I never got Golden Rock for lunch yet. And you carry the seniors at Golden Rock for lunch. No, I'm serious. She messaged me last week. She said, we never got Golden Rock for lunch yet. And I mean, they're getting the best. Our seniors on the island of Nevis get the best treatment. The best, absolutely. And of course, when the Premier spoke yesterday, when he presented this fantastic piece of work, the budget, he spoke about revamping the seniors program. And you know what, Mr. President? You know what? All the good treatment that the seniors are getting, we ain't stopping there, you know. Because of the COVID, we have had to change course a bit. And so revamping now. And you know, many years ago, the seniors got some computer training. But now, my good people at social services have thought it best to say, well, listen, because we can't bring the seniors together as much as we want to, we're going to bring them together on Zoom. Mr. President, you hear me? You hear what I just said? We're going to bring them together on Zoom. And so we're going to be doing some training in the new year with our caregivers, as well as our seniors. And Mr. President, listen to me. A lot of our seniors are up to date with the technology, you know? I have an adopted mother over in Vaughan's Village, right? Over 80 years. And you know, I want to see she on Skype. She could use Skype better than me. And so our seniors are there. I remember one day I went to a celebration over in St. James Parish. I think the persons were celebrating, one of the persons was celebrating 90. And the wife was there doing she video call on WhatsApp. They are with the program. And so because we know they are with the program, that is why we're going to get them involved in the technology. Because as a matter of fact, this year, Seniors Month was celebrated under the theme, Digital Equity for All Ages. And we are not leaving our seniors behind. And so I want to reiterate here again that our seniors on the island of Nevis get the absolute best treatment that any senior can get anywhere in any part of the world. Any part of the world. Mr. President, I also want to speak briefly about the foster parents program that we have on the island of Nevis. Because of course we know a lot of the times people have children and they have difficulty raising them. And so we have some very good people, foster parents, who have been working along with us. And so we would have recognized them early this year, and I want to commend them highly again. And we also had an event for World Social Work Day where we honored our partners. And let me just say who our partners here: Social Security Development Bank, Nevis Cooperative Credit Union, Bank of Nevis, Best Buy Supermarket, TDC City Drug Store, Sweet or Savory, Marcel's Structural Metalworks. We want to thank you. I want the other business places to get jealous. That's why I call the names, right? Other business places get jealous and come on board with social services. We are doing an outstanding job. And Mr. President, I know time is running, but I want to touch quickly on something called the Second Chance Teen Mothers Program. That again, Mr. President, is something that is reaching our teen mothers. And that program has been around now for about 9 years, where we look after young persons who became pregnant while they're teenagers, and so we don't want to leave them behind either. And so we have the Second Chance Teen Mothers Program. We had a graduation last week.
You're not coming through right, the mic. Okay.
Well, the mic is on.
Yeah, but you're speaking outside.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. President, I was saying only last week we had the graduation for the Second Chance Teen Mothers Program. And I'm very proud of those teen mothers who became a part of the program. And I have to say that when one of the persons spoke, she became very emotional, because as part of that program, they did some skills training, they did some development programs, and some of them were able to get some job attachments. And the young lady who spoke got a job attachment at the Park Hyatt, and she is now full-time. She has been employed full-time at Park Hyatt. We've also had one who have passed through the program, who is now full-time at Wilmer's Diner as well. And so the folks there at Social Services continue to look after everyone. If you get pregnant and you're young, never mind. Persons who were part of that program, they were between the ages of 15 and 21. And I have to place and record our sincere thanks to UNICEF for continuing to look at us. And you know, Mr. President, you know why UNICEF continues to do this with us? Because in Nevis, our programs at social services are outstanding compared to all of the other islands in the region. We are one of the model islands And that is why UNICEF and other organizations continue to look at us very favorably. Sustainable development, Mr. President, we heard a lot of song and dance this morning about the sustainable development goals. And the Madam Senator would have spoken about how she's looking at the sustainable development goals in her ministry. And we actually have a sustainable development unit in my ministry, Mr. President. And we are doing some training as well. And so we would have done some training. We would have had a proposal writing workshop early this year. We also formed what is called the Nevis Island Administration Sustainable Development Coordinating Committee, where we have point persons from the different ministries, aligned ministries. And very, very important, we've had 2 retirement preparedness seminars. Because a lot of the times people say that when they reach 55, the government did not do enough to prepare them for retirement. And so what we're trying to do from sustainable development is to ensure that persons are prepared for the retirement. And so we had persons as young as 30 and under who were part of that process. And so at least they can start thinking 20 years ahead what we can do when we retire. And you can retire gracefully. And I also have to speak about the involvement of Sustainable Development Unit in the World Heritage nomination process. They have been working very well with the Nevis World Heritage Committee. And I must commend at this point as well the work of the Nevis Heritage Committee under the leadership of Mrs. Evelyn Henville. She's taking a break now, and Ms. Lilith Richards is doing an outstanding job in leading. So I want to commend all of the volunteers in that committee, because I still believe that one day Nevis will get UNESCO inscription. I want to commend them very highly. Turning quickly to culture, Mr. President. Of course, we know, because of the pandemic, some of the practitioners at NCDF were not able to go into the schools, and so they've been doing some empowerment work there at NCDF. And so they've had a number of workshops over the past year to improve the skills of the practitioners there. They have had a 4-day capacity building workshop. They've had a cultural arts development workshop. They've done something with the Human Resources Department. They've done something with the UE Open Campus. And Mr. President, they also had an Easter camp where persons were taught the art of drumming as well as steel pan playing. Of course, we had what is called the Intangible Cultural Heritage Project that is being spearheaded by Mr. Howell. And we had a showcase at NEPAC earlier this year where we showcased and highlighted Nevis's heritage. I must say as well, I must highlight that during our virtual Culturama, the NCDF was able to put together what is called a culture pot, and that was an extraordinary production, Mr. President, an extraordinary production, got a lot of excellent reviews, and we believe we're going to make it an annual event. As a matter of fact, the persons in St. Kitts were actually calling for folks from NCDF to come and take part in Carnival to put on a similar function there for Culture Pot. Mr. President, I turn quickly to the Dubai Expo 2021. Mr. Howell, who works at NCDF, he was seconded to tourism to be a part of that experience. And also from culture, Mr. President, Delroy Huggins was a part of the Federation's delegation, along with our 3 musicians for the Masqueraders. We had Chris Hanley, Colin Freeman, and Terrence Joshua. And of course, our very own Abernathy Liebert was a part of the delegation as well, and they would have represented us well at Dubai Expo. Turning very quickly, Mr. President, to Culturama 47. That was a virtual edition and a huge and a resounding success. I would have spoken about it at an earlier sitting here, and I don't need to rehash what was done. But I just want to again commend the winners of those competitions that we had, the 3 competitions, the Soca Monarch competition, Groovy and Power, and the Calypso competition. And I want to commend highly once again Mr. Abo Liebert, the Executive Director of the Culturama Secretariat, for spearheading that event, and of course NTV for doing a marvelous, marvelous job in putting it together and bringing it into the living rooms of persons not only in St. Kitts and Nevis but throughout the world. And of course, we had Mr. Kareem L.L. Herbert from NCDF, who was the production manager. Mr. President, the Department of Information, an extremely important department. And persons are looking at me right now because of the Department of Information. Because of the excellent work of the Department of Information, people were able to see the Premier reading this budget yesterday, the budget presentation. Excellent piece of work. They've looked at all the rest of us who are here today, and they're looking at me compliments of NTV and the work that NTV has been doing. And Mr. President, COVID-19 has taught us so many things. And it has taught us that a lot of things can be done virtually. And because of that, NTV and the Department of Information has come into very sharp focus. So they have had to rise to the challenge. And they have had to be there at numerous functions, Mr. President. And when I say numerous, I mean numerous functions. Almost everything that any government department is having now, NTV has to be there to provide live streaming. And I must commend very highly the team at the Department of Information for the extraordinary work and the quality work. Because when people look at the streaming for the Culturama, the virtual Culturama, Mr. President, people were calling and asking, who is doing the streaming? Who is doing that good work? The quality was on par with from anybody else, any other country. And I am happy that NTV staff, the Department of Information staff, was an integral part of that excellent production of the virtual Culturama and the excellent production of so many other events that have been taking place here on the island of Nevis. I have a long list here of events that NTV has covered, but in the interest of time is running, I won't be able to go through all of them, Mr. President. But NTV has been there front and center at all of the events of the Nevis Island administration. Every time the Premier has a press conference, it's beamed the world over, right? This morning, I was a little bit disappointed when the member opposite spoke about the Premier and his press conference. Because, Mr. President, how else will the people of Nevis be informed? And I am happy to say that this is the first Premier who has instituted a monthly press conference to inform the people of Nevis and to field questions from journalists. This is the first Premier who has done it. And NTV is there to ensure that people the world over, and this is not something that you can record and play back, This is something live. So the Premier has to be on his P's and Q's to answer all the hard questions that come. And so NTV is there to bring all of the action live and lively. All of the primary school graduations, that those are proud moments for people. They're going to be there tomorrow at the Gingerland Secondary School graduation to bring it live. And so I am proud of the work that is being done by the Department of Information. And they have not only been doing this live streaming. Of course, we look at the news every night at 7:30. And so they're bringing what is happening on the island of Nevis into the public domain. They are bridging that gap between the Nevis Island administration and the people of Nevis. And so kudos to NTV for the solid work, the quality work that they have been doing. And they would have done some new programs over the past year, and I have to commend them very, very highly for all of the work that they have done. Mr. President, I think my time is up, so I'm going to be wrapping up. And as I said before, if I really had to stand here and outline all of the accomplishments, because even though I trimmed, I still have to trim again when I came in this afternoon, because I still did not get a chance to outline all of what I had. But this evening, we have the Christmas tree lighting in Charlestown, and I have an event at 6 o'clock at Pond Hill as well, so I'll have to leave here, go to Pond Hill, and come back to Charlestown, right? So, Mr. President, I just want to say how happy I am that I am a part of this proud administration. An administration that looks out for its people. An administration that always says people matter most. And that will always be our mantra. Because all of our activities, all of our programs, people are front and center. We always think about people first. And so I am proud to be a part of this administration. I am proud of the work that this administration is doing. And I have to say as well that I am happy. You know, when I became the minister first, right, Mr. President, I have to admit, I asked the Premier, why are you taking me out of agriculture? But I'm happy that I was given this ministry because I feel very comfortable there. Very comfortable. And part of being comfortable there is because of the staff that I have. And now I have to commend the staff that I have because they have worked well with me. And I want to commend and thank them, Mr. President. And so, Mr. President, as I'm about to wrap up, I really want to say a hearty thank you to my entire ministry. It's a ministry that has a lot of departments. And so I want to thank all of the directors and their team. So I want to thank Curtis Clark and her team at the Department of Youth, Jamia Claxton and his team at the Department of Sports, Sandra Maynard Morton and her team at Social Services, Janet Nisbet Maloney and her team at Community Development, Donis Wilkinson Keynes and her team at the Department of Information, Jerome Rollins of NCDF and Antonio Liebert of Culturama Secretariat and their staff, Joyce Movin and your team at Sustainable Development. And of course, my ministry staff who is very close to me, I want to say thanks to them as well, to Permanent Secretary Keith Glasgow, Assistant PS, Michelle Liebert, to the ladies at the office, Shelley Liebert and Natasha Clark, to Donette, to Cheryl Wilkinson, who keeps my office immaculately clean. And I want to say thanks to all of the departments and ministries who have collaborated with us over the year and continue to collaborate with us, because that is what good government and good governance is all about. A ministry does not stand on its own. So we must collaborate. We have been collaborating with practically all of the ministries and all of the departments. And we have had good support, good collaboration, great partnership, and we want that to continue. And so I want to thank my entire team at my ministry, a very powerful ministry, and I want to thank all who would have supported us over the year in the government as well as in the private sector. And so, Mr. President, once again, I want to commend the mover of the bill, and I want to wish this bill safe passage through this honorable House. May it please you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I rise and seek your leave for the adjournment of this honorable House until 11 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, the 9th day of December. And I ask you to note that time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion.
The question is that this honorable House be adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow, the 9th day of December 2021. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House adjourned.
Start of the model chapter.